Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where it's about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Gangs of London. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, I love that it immediately picks up after episode 4. Once again, I love that reveal when it's like, oh, episode 5 takes place before episode 4. I like that messing with the timeline in that regard, of just kind of like the chronological events and stuff like that. I thought that was so interesting. Once again, a little bit more of, not necessarily an uplifting episode, still kind of, it's a depressing episode considering everything, but not nearly as depressing as last episode. Last episode was just kind of god-awful depressing. But nevertheless, once again, I think that just kind of speaks volumes. The Wallace family versus, that family, so it's just kind of like, yeah, the Wallace has kind of managed to scrape through in some shape or form. Regardless, But we pick up with Ed going after Jevin, and, it's like, oh, he figured it out, like, you're the one responsible for all this, us having to be away from home at the time, you introducing Alex to all these investors, and it turns out, like, Jevin's main motive for doing all this, like, once again, last episode I think I was like, nah, he's not even he was like, yeah, word from on high, so he's answering to someone who's answering to potentially answering to who answers to someone else. So it turns out the investors, they don't want Sean. He's too unpredictable. Him flying off the handle like he has recently trying to solve his dad's murder has kind of solidified in their minds. Like, we don't need him around. We want to keep doing business. Alex, oh man, you're killing it with the numbers and how you've been handling things. So we want you around. We want to keep, it seems like they want to kind of snuff out the Wallace organization, at least the Wallace part of it, and then just kind of keep it with Alex. And it's like, could we see a great future with you, but not necessarily with the Wallaces. But now it's like, okay, if you killing me won't stop anything, like Ed is what Jevin was trying to tell him. And it's like kind of like, oh, protecting Alex because like, right, you do this, you turn against these people, they have a vested interest in you. They like you and Alex. But you do this, they're going to turn against you. All that might they've sent after the Wallace family, they're going to send it towards you. So we get like a week time skip. Obviously, we have Elliot recovering with Shannon. And obviously it's like, yo, so how do we, what about Danny? Is he going to be okay? And Elliot believing that at the end of the day, like, Danny's a tough kid, that he's going to be okay. I'm sure the kid's definitely going to have some psychological damage because you saw what he was playing with later on. He was like flipping a bullet and kind of dragging it across the table because it's like, treating it like it's a toy or something. I don't know who gave that to him. I was about to say, not less. Well, because they did take the bullet out of him, so I was wondering, is that supposed to be the bullet that came out of Elliot? I didn't even think about that at the time. It's like, right, they did take the bullet out of him, so I'm wondering if there's something. That'd be interesting. That might be why he's holding on to it. Nevertheless, well, what was also interesting, too, because it's like, oh, yeah, Danny's watching a particular cartoon, and he's like, yeah, Samuel watched it, too. And she's like, I like the fact is that you feel open enough to talk to me about him. And he's like, me, too, which is like, I think that does speak volumes. It's like, once again, that's the complicated thing with being undercover. Eventually, those lines start to blur. He makes it seem like, no, I'm still in this to take down Sean. But the way he's getting close to Shannon and Danny, it's like, yeah, they're mixed up in this, but they're not as directly connected. So maybe that's where he's kind of letting his guard down. To be fair, he probably hasn't really been this close to anyone since he lost his wife and child. And I think that is going to be the complication. The fact is that he is willing to open up to her. It's like, oh, he probably hasn't opened up to anyone at all when it comes to, like, talking about his child. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Kind of at the same time, we have the whole situation with with the Wallaces themselves. Obviously, Billy, it's like he's like, oh, I'm baking. It's more so than anything. Everything is going on in the house. Plus, he's going cold turkey after like a week of just hitting getting his fix like a week ago. Like he's going through withdrawal, like it's all a lie. So he's baking just to distract himself. And Sean, they're acting like everything's okay. And then like out comes Marion with like at one point has like at first she's got kissing her boys acting like it's normal, and then just have like Billy and Sean looking like. What, the fact is their mom does, knowing the context of everything, though, it's like her walking in there, like, oh, good morning, kissing him, like, oh, like any other damn day. Oh, besides, the waitress that tried to kill them tried to kill Shauna in episode 4, yeah, she didn't die. She's actually still alive. They're just torturing her. In particular, Marion is, and that's interesting. And that's also the thing, like, going into what we've seen of Marion so far, I was thinking more Skylar from Breaking Bad. She's more Wendy from Ozark, dude. It's crazy. Like how, like the way she's torturing. Like, I'm assuming she's the one that created that whole, like, I don't know, put the plastic around the house. Also, broken bottles so that if her feet ever touch the ground, like, it's a motivator to keep her feet high, because it's like, yeah, don't want your feet touching the ground because you're immediately going to touch some glass down below. But also just, like, doing everything to her. It's like, Jesus, like, you've never seen Marion like this. And even later on, her being like, I know my husband was a lying cunt, and if I was in front of him, if he was in front of me right now, I'd be picking out his damn eyes. But the fact of the matter is, he's not, and you are, so you're getting the brunt of my frustration. Not only did you try to kill my damn kids, you're responsible for killing my husband. I don't care too much about that, but it's also like, he's not here for me to give him my rage about everything, so I'm coming after you. Well, and I brought it up last episode. There is some, like, ironic, poetic justice in a sense, like knowing that she, well, for one, she's the one that put Evie down at the end of, near the end of the last episode. So it's like, yeah, she was part of that hit squad. So you're also feeling like, just deserved because she got popped. But now it's like, oh, she didn't get popped. She's getting tortured. You still do feel bad for her. And obviously Sean is still struggling because this has never been the side of things that he's like. We even find out, like, oh, like, I guess Ed eventually told them about the photo, because I think that plays a huge motivator in what this is all about. I think that's what this is. Like, all that family bloodline that was wiped out, it's like, obviously Sean's asking Ed to look into it. Like, we got to find out more about that. But also, he focuses on the same picture Ed does. It's a kid. It's like, their dad had this whole rule, and even Billy's like, oh yeah, like, you kind of getting so caught up in believing dad had, like, this particular, like, gangster rule book of, like, there's certain lines he wouldn't cross. Because no matter how hardened a criminal is, there are certain lines, like, you know, it's kind of like, it's a weird metaphor debate, but like how you hear, like, in prison, pedophiles are seen as, like, the most disgusting piece of shit. Like, hardcore criminals in there are like, yo, they have, like, kids, and it's like, you do what you do to kids. So it's that thing of, like, even criminals, the most hardcore criminals, have, like, their moral code, their, like, what lines they're not willing to cross. I've talked about it recently. It was like, what the, a great example would be like, stumbling, Raymond Reddington on The Blacklist. Like, he's shown time and time again that there's a code with certain things he tolerates and other things he won't. Certain lines he won't cross in certain regards, you know? Even though he has been the criminal he has been for the past 3 decades, you know, it's even then being the top class criminal he is, even he has lines he won't draw. So it's kind of an interesting thing in that regard of, like, their foundation was kind of built off of that, but it seems like Finn never upheld that end of the deal. And obviously Marion kind of tiptoes in that direction, but Sean is reluctant. Like, obviously his mom is like, you got to do whatever it takes, which is a lesson that his dad kind of instilled in him too. So feeling like, right, to get to the bottom of this, I got to help out my mom. Elliot shows up. He doesn't get involved in all of that, because they make sure to stop the torture when he's around. I don't know what it is, but Marion was definitely checking out Elliot in the sense of, like, I guess even she's like, well, Elliot's welcome here because he took a bullet for my son, but I think it's still a thing of, like, well, it's also probably because Elliot's just kind of looking around because he's like, yeah, the plastic and all this stuff, he's kind of wondering, like, the music playing on a loop and everything. In particular, she literally made a whole playlist of the same song, and it makes you wonder, like, oh, why is she scrolling back to the top? It's probably because, like, she, it made it to the end of the playlist, so she's starting it right back from the top, so it kind of can auto plays, like, all the way through the playlist again and again and again and again. That circumstance will probably also make you hate that song, considering, like, you know, it's meant I'm sure it makes you wonder, is it supposed to be kind of like a little bit of a psychological torture of, like, listening to the same thing over and over again, supposed to, like, wear you down, keep you from, like, really resting? Because yeah, there's music blasting, but I'm sure it's also like, yeah, also making sure no one else hears it. Like, everyone inside the house can still hear her screams over the top of the music, but just anyone coming by might not be able to. But yeah, Billy's excited to see Elliot. Oh, Elliot, come on in. It's like, oh, you hungry? You want something? And then Sean comes over. It's like, yo, you know, and they hit it off again. It's like, yeah, it's like, yo, you took a bullet for me. And even Sean asking, like, what do you want? Like, why did you take a bullet from me? It's like, Elliot's like, yeah, if you died, I'd be out of a job. It's like, yeah, but, like, what do you actually want from all of this? And he was like, I want more protection for Shannon and Danny. He's like, yeah, that's it. And obviously it's that conversation for Sean of, like, his dad always pushed him harder and harder and harder, kind of pushing that whole narrative of kind of doing what is necessary. I forgot the last bit of it. There was something else at the end of it. But Elliot was like, yeah, I mean this with all due respect, but your dad sounds like a bit of a cunt. And Sean just kind of laughs because I think even to a certain degree he agrees, especially with what he's kind of learning more and more about his dad. At the same time, we had the whole Ed and Alex thing, and it's like, all right, everyone's still trying to figure everything out. It's like, obviously Ed knows, and eventually he lets Alex knows because it's like, okay, it's like, yep, Javon was behind. Well, not Javon, it was actually like the investors because they want the Wallaces out of the picture. Obviously, in particular, Sean, they want you to keep going. So it's like, I'm trying to protect you, considering like how Sean's literally trying to burn everything to the ground right now. Like, I don't know whether I think Ed was just in particular thinking like the investors, like they will turn on us if we don't do what's necessary. So really quickly, I didn't finish my thought process earlier. I'm gonna circle back to that really quickly. Whoever, one of the investors involved in all of this has to be connected to that family that died. Finn thought he wiped out the entire bloodline. Either someone that night didn't die, someone like kind of similar a little bit to Huntress in Birds of Prey, like someone either took a child or someone in from the family, like the family was supposed to die, and someone faked the kids in. So like one of those people that's dead, quote unquote dead, could be like, it could have been fake that they're dead, so there's a surviving member of the family, or maybe it's someone that wasn't there at the time. Whatever the case may be, someone's alive and they're trying to burn the Wallace family to the ground as retribution. It's like, my bloodline was wiped out. In particular, they want Finn. It started with Finn, but it seems like it's escalating to the rest of the world. Because like Finn was very personal because he's the one that called the hit. For all we know, he might have been the one to pull the trigger. I think it's more so like he's the one that called for the hit. But nevertheless, burning the Wallace organization to a ground, or at the very least, wiping out the Wallace family and kind of taking it for themselves is just kind of added bonuses. It's a cherry on top. It's just the middle finger of like, right, not only did I kill Finn, I basically destroyed his entire legacy and made it my own. I think it's what that comes down to. Because it was even an element to all of this, too, was apparently, at least from Ed's perspective, he was saying, like, apparently Finn wanted to walk away, so it's like, right, well, probably, you know, with his mistress as well as their child, he was going to start over and leave it all behind, which is like, whoa, the investors are like, you know too much, you got to go. But I'm sure, like, there's probably one particular investor that convinced the others that this was the right move to make. Like I said, like we keep circling the drain about like these photos and this bloodline that he wiped out. It's like, it's too important not to be connected to all of this. So, but Alex wants to warn Sean about everything, but Ed doesn't want him to do it. So ultimately, you know, in his own way, it's like, I'm trying to protect you, son, because you do this, you cross these people, they're going to want you dead as well. But he's trying to contact Billy, trying to find a way to find out where they are because they're off the grid. But Billy eventually does tell Alex because Alex promises to get him some drugs, and he shows up and finds out not only did the person he thought he killed, you know, which I'm sure for him it's like the first person he ever killed, but also he thought he was doing it in defense of Sean, but also it's like, wait, that person's alive, you didn't even tell me that. The fact is you're torturing her for information, you didn't tell me any of this. And for him it's like, it's not that I don't want to tell you, Alex. It's like, it was kind of odd, but it's like, no, just shut up, because for him it's like, at the end of the day, you could have, like, you didn't have to listen to your mom. You could have, like, told me and trusted me. But it's like, Marion didn't know who to trust under these circumstances. Like, regardless of them showing up, I think even she had her suspicions of, right, you guys just happen to show up. Now, it's actually interesting because Elliot's actually the one who also gave them a lead, because he was saying, like, right, we may not know their owner's name, but the dog, like when they get microchipped, you have to kind of give your name. So following that, going to the vet, and kind of getting checking the chip, they were able to go to her address. And obviously, turns out our two killers are, well, for one, they're former military, which is interesting because Elliot is too. But also like their parents. I was like, oh wow, that's not cool. And obviously they're looking through some of the stuff, and obviously everyone's being surveilled, even Vic, and it's like, right, that's who it was that was trying to scare her off. We don't know who it was necessarily that came in the room and scared the crap out of her, but whoever they are, they know she's a, well, I'd assume they know she's a cop. So I don't know. They haven't necessarily tied her to Elliot because the picture is just of her by herself. So we're kind of tying back to why like someone broke into her place, but that's about it. Like I said, I'd assume they know she's a cop, but I don't know if they know, you know? The fact is they ended up getting her phone number and everything might kind of speak volumes on that, but it could just be like, because like I said, I think it's because when she was looking for, isn't, Finn's baby mama's name, isn't it Floriana? Isn't that it? I'm blanking on her name now. It comes up every once in a while, but I kind of end up forgetting. But her, I think, like I said, I think Vic called her telling, like, oh, I'm DCI Vic or whatever, and, you know, and ended up kind of leaving that information, so they are aware. I just don't think they've correlated, like, Elliot being a part of that. Nevertheless, the kids roll up, and obviously Elliot's able to kind of calm the situation by like, hey, me and him, we're both cops. I'm Elliot. Your mom's going missing. Do you have anyone you can call? And he's like, am I going with you? And Sean hesitates for a second, but then says no. Because regardless of his dad's rules, regardless of what his mom ultimately wants later on, being like, oh, these kids, yeah, we're going to bring them here, which obviously Sean's like, no, we're not. Like, he's, regardless of everything, like, there's rules that are so intricate to him that it's like, I'm not going to cross him. I'm not going to kill some innocent kid, you know? He kind of made that clear then, and made it clear when he ends up confronting his mom later on. Because like because later on, like earlier, Billy was like, because obviously the back and forth between Sean and Billy, because Billy's getting high, it's like, you sold us out for drugs. He's like, dude, I can't take hearing what I'm hearing, and yes, I got drugs because I need them, but it's like, Billy's calling Sean out for being a part of all of that, but Sean also calls him out for being like, oh, you're a killer, and he's like, yeah, you're right, I am, but I did that for you. Sad thing, in his own way, Sean's doing everything for the family, and that becomes a complicated thing in itself, which we'll get to in a second. But for Billy, it's like, yeah, you want to know what that guy really did? Ask mom. And ultimately, Sean talks to her and being to the lady downstairs, being like, I'm not going to kill, like, tell me who sent you, and I'll make sure you go home to your kids. Because he's like, yeah, you tried to kill me, but your kids never did anything wrong towards me and my family. They're innocent, and they shouldn't be dragged into this. Those kids shouldn't have to grow up without their mom. And then the lady looks at Marion and is like, your mom's never going to let me go. And then Sean was like, yeah, but she's not the one that's in charge. And so they have their like moment back and forth of like, you know, this isn't the way they do that. For him, he ends up bringing up this interesting comparison where he's like, for so long, like, you know, for one, it's like, Jacqueline was right. You know, I always defended you, but you never defended us from Dad. It's like, you know, it's like, oh, that whole thing where Billy ended up shooting that guy. You didn't protect us from that. It's like, who was he? He was some nobody from a bar. And it's like, and you just let that happen, never saying anything? She's like, I never knew that your dad was going to, like, make you kill him. And it's like, oh, I chalked that, like, they didn't say that, but I guess it's supposed to imply like she had an affair with that dude, which is also messed up considering like, oh, he's having an affair. I don't know whether that's supposed to be like oh, that's why he's doing what he's doing because she, you know, I mean, but who knows how many women he had on his side. The fact is that he's dead. He was going to run away. He bought an island for this woman, bought her a boat and everything, named the boat after her. I think maybe that speaks volumes. But at the end of the day, you know, for him, it's like, I'm not going to drag her children into this. The fact is, but for Marion, it's like everything she's like, what's pissing her off is like, yeah, like, bring those damn children here because, you know, she brought my kids into it by trying to kill you guys, trying to kill you. So why shouldn't her kids get brought into this? But, you know, for her, it's the thing of everything that she's ever done, terrible or not, has always been for the purpose of trying to protect her family. Because Sean's also saying, like, he always thought their dad, once again, he thought his dad was the one kind of running things. But it's like, no, like, you're the one that really enjoys this. Like, because, like, Finn was going to walk away from all of this. But for Marion, it's like, no, like, it's hard to say, once again, who's the gangster. Like, was she always this way? Was there always a little, but once again, very Wendy Bird, is there like some darkness in you that this life kind of tapped into and kind of sprouted something inside of you that was always there? Maybe just being with Finn in general led to this, but it is that thing of like, you make excuses for what lines you're willing to cross for the sake of protecting your family. And Sean's kind of saying, you know, that's why they've done all the terrible things they've done. It's for the sake of protecting their family. But it's like, but how long are we going to continue to use that as an excuse? Which is sad because, like, despite everything, they are kind of a broken family. Like, obviously kind of burying a lot of, like, that deep, complicated shit, like beneath, like burying it deep, and on the surface they're just kind of a broken family. But for Sean, it's like, we don't need you protecting us anymore. So it ends up being Billy who ended up getting information out of her, saying like, hey, we were told the orders were to make sure the hit went down when Alex and Ed were out of the house. The employees didn't want them there. Obviously, Billy ends up being taken as a hostage. Because that scene earlier, I thought that was crazy when she was like cutting her hand. I was like, I didn't know whether she was going to try. I was like, are you going to try and sever your whole hand? But it's like, no, she's trying to cut her hand enough to probably bleed from her hand so that she could like slip through. It's like, that was like rough. She couldn't do it though. Also, like, yeah, because like I said, we found out that she is Danish military, a Jaeger Corps in particular. So that was quite fascinating. But ultimately, she ends up taking Billy as a hostage. I wonder, like, would she have just disappeared or what? It's like she ends up getting Sean's gun, and it's like telling Marion, like, let me out of here, or I'm gonna slit this son and shoot this son, you know. But ultimately, like, Sean's like, put the gun down, Mom, but she doesn't, and ultimately ends up killing the lady. And I think, you know, it's supposed to be a representation of, like, I would do whatever to protect my family, like, you know. Sean's just kind of looking at her and her just being like, yeah, you said you don't need me to protect you. I will always be here to protect you. I'll do whatever is necessary. And obviously sitting in the car, I don't know whether it's just the weight of everything she did. Like, she tried to put on a strong front, like everything was okay, like she was in complete control. Like, I don't know whether that's what that was about, or maybe it's just like, now my children resent me because of all I've done to protect them. Like, she already had to deal with that with Jackie, and now it's like she's dealing with it with Sean. So maybe it's a culmination of all of that, but her in the car crying like that. Alex went back and met up with Jevin and Ed about everything. Ed's like, oh, thanks for coming to your senses, son. But Alex just kind of glares him down. It's like, if it wasn't for Sean not trusting him, he would have told him the truth. But now it's like, now you've put me in this compromising position because now I am lying to Sean because of you. And it's like, yeah, this is their only move to make right now. But we do see that someone is tracking them. Once again, the photos and everything, everyone's being tracked. You know, it's not, once again, not just Ed's family, not just, I mean, because the fact is, I think, either, once again, that's a third party amongst the investors doing their thing, or that's the plan of, like, to make sure Alex and Ed stay in line, threatening Shannon and Danny's life, maybe. Maybe that's an element to this. But another thing in this episode is Elliot coming back home and finding, like, undercover cop dude is now on, you know, it's like, yeah, Sean had picked me. He sent me to kind of answer to you, and he's like, we're good? He's like, yeah, we're good. And then ultimately, when he's dreaming about his wife and child, he wakes up to find Danny and Shannon in his arms, and lo and behold, who's looking outside? Undercover cop, because he had met with Vic earlier in the episode about, like, okay, you're going to need, like, a debrief and psych evaluation after everything you went through. And that guy, he's not only just there because Sean sent him there, it works out because this way he's able to keep an eye on Elliot and see whether Elliot's just a little too deep, whether he gets a little too comfortable being undercover, and, you know, the lines start blurring. I think that's also something Elliot's kind of looking at him, kind of getting worried about. So we'll see. But other than that, we also had Leaf. He's the sharpshooter that managed to get away. He was the leader of that squad from the last episode. The baby's almost here, and so he's talking to, once again, I believe her name's Floriana, ends up talking to her. And she's, like, willing to give him money, but it's like, I need to make sure that the baby is safe. So I don't know whether it's, like, money Finn had stashed away that was, I guess it was meant to be a thing of, like, at the very least, make sure my baby gets away safe. At the end of the day, like, I will pay you money, and then, like, whatever money, like, your employees are paying you, I'll give you more just to make sure my baby's okay. You can do with me whatever you have to do afterwards. I don't know whether that's what's going on there, or whether this is part of that, like, investors' plans. I don't know. Like I said, I figure it's because that baby is supposed to be Finn's, that it has, like, a claim to everything, you know, from, like, maybe, like, a lawyer standpoint and, like, maybe a will standpoint, because, you know, if the rest of the family's wiped out, then it would be the last blood relative. If, like, Marianne dies, Sean and Billy and Jacqueline end up dying, then this baby will kind of end up ultimately inheriting everything, but it's like, oh, it'll be probably put into a trust and someone else will be overseeing it until the baby's like 18 years old or something like that. That's kind of where my thought has been for a little while, but we'll see whether that ends up being the case or not. Like I said, that was just an interesting conversation where she was just like, Leaf, I need to know that my baby's going to be safe. So other than that, though, with the information they learn, Sean ends up confronting Alex at the end of the episode. Alex never directly gives him information. He's like, no, we were just late, because he knows, like, if it's revealed to Sean, like, wait, we did hide something from you, so he's still keeping it, like, no, we just happened to be late, we were meeting with some investors and stuff like that. So still keeping it close to the vest, because he knows, like, if Sean goes ballistic the way he's been going, this could end up badly for everybody. So in his own way, this is his way kind of trying to protect everyone, just like Sean in his own way is trying to protect everyone. But it turns out the money that was supposed to be given to Luan, because like, oh, you're erecting a tower for Mossy, and it's like even Ed being like, yeah, Mossy's not the best. He's a business part you want to be careful about trusting and stuff like that, or making promises to him. So it's like, yeah, we know what you're up to, Luan, but because of everything you've done for us, we're good right now. So we'll give you a freebie. You get one tower and never go against us. But now it's going to look like, it's like, right, the $500 million they were going to give Luan, well, it disappeared. And Alex is like, now it's going to look like we stole it. And so whoever this is has now made it, potentially started a war between Luan and, the Albanians and the Wallaces. So I guess it's like, well, my strike team failed, so rather than kind of sending more of my own hired guns, why don't we get another group after you, like turning an ally, a complicated ally, into a full-blown enemy. So we'll see where all that goes, because at the end, all we have is Sean saying, enough, and he looks out to that tower. Because even, interesting enough, like when they were back at that house, the assassin's house, he ended up like messing with those like Lego or whatever blocks, and I was wondering, is that like he put like one more on top, like a red one. I was like, is that supposed to be like representative of like the core tower that the Wallaces have, the one that he was, isn't that the same tower from the first episode he was dangling home dude from? I think so, but nevertheless, a lot of interesting stuff to keep in mind as we go forward. I'm really curious to ultimately see where all of it ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and good